Chapter 1. The sun shines again. Her water broke, Isamu said with urgency in his voice, rushing through the doors of the hospital carrying his wife in his rough hands. A doctor rushed up to him with a hospital bed, seeing the situation. "All right, we got her. Just go into the waiting room for now." Isamu looked at the doctor with confused eyes and a facial expression of curiosity. "Why can't I see her? She's my wife." "We need to concentrate on the operation. That is why we advise you to leave," the doctor replied. Isamu backed up and turned around with slight discomfort. "Fine." A few minutes later. "He was persistent, but we can pull this off. This test won't be like the last ones." Another doctor walked up to him. She was female. "Are you sure doing this while she is in labor is the best way to produce another Ra?" said the female doctor hesitantly. "Yes. It's the only way to have different results from the previous experiments." The female doctor spoke with uneasiness. "We've almost run out of Ra's blood. We only have enough for 3 more experiments if we use an equal amount. We only have enough for 1. We won't use an equal amount. We will put the rest of the blood into this one," said the male doctor confidently. The female doctor spoke up, raising her voice. "Are you insane? The Pharaoh will kill us if we fail again." The male doctor turned his body towards the woman and touched her cheek, indicating affection. "We won't. This time we will not fail. Prepare her for the incision." Yes. Be careful, we don't want to waste all of it. Remember, we will die if this doesn't work." Minutes later. What? No, this shouldn't be happening." The male doctor was in a state of panic. This experiment would fail, and the easiness and confidence were no longer present in his face and speech. The woman who was previously in labor was seen floating in the air, her belly glowing a deep yellow and orange color, like an explosion. She screamed out pain, grasping her whole body. Then she bursts. Blood splatters all over the walls, and the explosion kills everyone in the room, the 2 doctors and the woman in labor. The newly born son was given life, like a dying star. Isamu rushed into the room, hearing the screams and doom coming from it. He looked around, but all he could see was a baby in the middle of the hospital bed. Honey? No. Oh, God. The man in grief, tears walking down his face, picks up the baby that looked like him. He wonders how he had survived this nightmare of new life. 6 years later. Somewhere in the depths of the Egyptian country, where the commoners groveled for food and money, where the walls and houses were made from ground and mud, where children wore rags and hadn't seen clean water ever in their lives. The place was dark even when the sun was out and shining. A man walked into his house. This man had a rough face, with small amounts of wrinkles on his face. He was brown-skinned with brown hair and brown eyes. He appeared bulky from working. His clothes were sweaty, and his face was tired. This man was Isamu. "Magnolia, I'm home." Isamu spoke, calling out to his son. A kid that looked like Isamu, just with long brown flowing hair that spikes at its ends. "This is Magnolia." Magnolia heard his father's voice, so he climbed off his bed and ran towards the front door, excited to see him. Once he reached his father, he embraced him with a hug, his smile shining brightly, and Isamu returned the gesture. Magnolia then spoke. "Father, I've been waiting for you for hours. Did you bring it?" he said with a smile, looking up at his father. "Of course, I could never forget." He divided his blistered hand into his pants pocket, pulling something out. "Here." Isamu gave the limestone he collected from the pyramids. "As you asked." Magnolia looked at the light brown rock with eagerness no boy his age would have for a rock, holding it with his 2 small hands, opposite to his father, who was previously holding it with one hand. Thank you," he said excitedly. "No problem, Mag. Now run along and add it to your collection," the large man said, walking towards the kitchen, planning on making tonight's dinner for him and his son. It had been 6 years since the tragedy at the hospital and when his beloved wife had passed. He still teared up thinking about her. He was snapped out of his daze when he felt a tap on his leg. He looked down to see the concerned eyes of his son. "Father, why do you have tears in your eyes?" he said with slight sadness and curiosity. Magnolia's father was confused as he placed his hand to his face to find the wetness of tears. Then Isamu spoke with a sad smile. Huh, it seems I miss her more than I realized. Magnolia did not know what to say, since he had only heard of what happened from his father, and had faint to no clear memories of the incident. Father, it is okay for the gods to be with us, and will protect her soul in the afterlife. Isamu, feeling less weepy, still remembers the night like a bad dream, not wanting to leave his skull. I suppose you are correct then? Magnolia, not wanting to make anything worse, goes back into his room later, around dinner time. Mag, supper is finished, come and feast, screamed Isamu. Magnolia enters the dining room while still feeling sad for his father, since he doesn't know what to do or if he can do anything to help his father. While eating, Father? Yes, Magnolia? How did you and Mother meet? And what was she like? What makes you ask this question? Well, you never seemed to speak of her, and I wish to know what my mother was like. Well, if you insist. Back when I was a slave, your mother and I had met when we were 17. I had started working on a vast pyramid around 2 to 3 months before. I was working non-stop trying to get them done as fast as possible, but I did not realize how much I had exerted my body's energy. I was sent to the Sonin Ws, which involved your mother. She took care of me and nursed me back to strength. Over this time we got close back then, I would often use up almost all my strength and energy building with the other slaves to get done as fast as possible. This meant I would go to the Sonin Ws many times, where each time I and your mother would connect more and more. We eventually got married, which made me a free man. Then, years upon years went by, she got pregnant, and sooner than expected the accident happened. After the accident, I had gotten back to work on the pyramids. Magnolia is happy that his wish came true, and his father was able to tell him the story of their meeting, while at the same time, he feels a way he's never felt before. Magnolia's eyes suddenly widened as if he had forgotten something important. He quickly removed himself from the dinner table and ran towards his room. When he arrived in his room, he looked for the rocks his father had gotten him from the pyramids. He picked them up, but something was different about them. They looked shiny, like all the dirt vanished. Once the shiny rocks were in Magnolia's small arms, he quickly began to leave the room, making his way towards the table. Once Magnolia made it in front of the table, he looked up at his father and presented the shiny rocks to him with a smile. Father, can you carve these rocks for me? Said Magnolia. He asked in a pleading and happy tone. Isamu looked down at his smiling son, then looked at the rocks without the surprise he was supposed to have, for he remembered Magnolia had been gathering rocks and making them shiny. He didn't know how Magnolias did it. The rocks seemed shiny, he could easily mistake them for gems and jewels. Yeah, sure, Mag, just let me finish eating, then I'll get the tools to carve them. Oh, by the way, Mag, are you ever going to tell me how you did it? Isamu replied. Magnolia looked at his father with a smile.